the man responsible for the demise of Richard took the empty throne of England and began a new royal house as Henry VII, the first of the Tudor kings. However, although more than capable of scheming and conniving in his own right, it was his second son, Henry, who turned royal scandal and conspiracy into an art form. Although looking at the history books, it appears that Henry VIII was obsessed with women, it was in fact the old problem of the succession and producing a healthy male heir that preoccupied him most. When Henry became king, he inherited the widow of his older brother Arthur, Catherine of Aragon, and a special dispensation from the Pope in Rome allowed them to marry. Sadly for Henry, Catherine failed to produce a son, and despite numerous pregnancies, her only child to survive was a girl, Mary. By this time, Henry realised that Catherine's childbearing days were over, and turned his attention to the young and bewitching Anne Boleyn. Henry now wanted the Pope to overturn his agreement to the marriage with Catherine, so there could be an annulment and the king would be able to marry Anne. The Pope, however, refused, so Henry decided to break from Rome, become head of a new Protestant Church of England, and grant himself a divorce, after which he married Anne, who was already pregnant. But after all that effort, Anne's child was a girl, Elizabeth, and despite Henry hoping future pregnancies would result in a son, nature didn't oblige, and Anne was swiftly dispatched, accused of adultery and beheaded. Henry's next choice of wife did produce a son, but as she died as a result of the achievement, Henry continued to marry and divorce or behead at will, having an incredible 6 wives in all, before his own death in 1547. With a new church and boy king, Henry's hopes of a secure succession were left unrealised when Edward VI died in 1553 at the age of 15. And the Catholics, who'd constantly plotted to restore England to Rome, were ready to support Henry's eldest daughter, Mary, a devout Catholic, in her bid for the throne. The Protestants, however, fought back, manipulating the 16-year-old Lady Jane Grey onto the throne of England, but the unfortunate girl, merely a pawn in an elaborate conspiracy, was deposed by Mary after just 9 days and sent to the Tower of London as a traitor, where she was later executed. For the Protestants, Bloody Mary, as the new queen became known, lived up to her name, executing as heretics those who refused to convert back to Rome. Plots and conspiracies sprung up everywhere, and as Mary's marriage to Philip of Spain failed to produce any issue, the Catholics feared that their power would die with Mary. While Mary was still alive, the Catholics had urged the Queen to execute her half-sister, Elizabeth, the Protestant daughter of Anne Boleyn, and the younger girl had shown courage beyond her years when she was imprisoned in the Tower of London. Nevertheless, Mary died before any death warrant could be signed, and Queen Elizabeth I began her reign in 1558, declaring religious tolerance. But as the Catholic conspiracies grew ever bolder, fear for her throne made Elizabeth outlaw Catholicism, and just as in Mary's reign, many lost their lives for their beliefs. Even so, Catholic priests still travelled in secret around the country, and many of the large houses, where families stayed true to Rome, constructed priest holes where a man could be concealed, if they were raided when Mass was being said. Here at Harvington Hall, there are priest holes in almost every room, and many priests were hidden here during this period of Catholic persecution. Elizabeth's greatest fear was that the Catholic Queen of Scots, her cousin Mary, who'd been crowned while still a babe in arms, would make an attempt on the English throne as another pawn in the hands of powerful conspirators. It didn't help that when she grew up, Mary was prone to making disastrous marriages, something that Elizabeth avoided altogether. Sadly though, when Mary threw herself on Elizabeth's mercy, the Catholic conspirators were still waiting in the wings, and after years spent moving the Scottish Queen from castle to castle, Elizabeth ordered Mary's execution, convinced she was guilty of treason. Elizabeth, as the Virgin Queen, ruled England for an incredible 45 years. But the downside of self-inflicted spinsterhood was the distinct lack of an heir. Ironically, the son of Mary Queen of Scots became James I, uniting England and Scotland as the first Stuart king in 1603.